Imagine being thrown out of a cafe just because you couldn't afford a cup of coffee, humiliated, broken, and ready to disappear. But what if, at that very moment, a single dad walked in, and gave you the seat of honor instead? Stay with me till the end, because this story will touch your heart in ways you never expected. And before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, so you never miss stories that remind us of the power of kindness. The rain tapped against the wide glass windows of the cafe like an impatient drummer, streaking the world outside in silver trails. Inside, the warm scent of roasted coffee beans filled the air, mingling with the chatter of friends, the hurried typing of students hunched over laptops, and the clinking of ceramic cups. At the far corner, near the door, a young woman sat curled up in a chair, her clothes still damp from the storm. Her hair clung to her face, her eyes cast down toward the table where her hands rested, trembling faintly. Her name was Anna, though no one in the cafe cared enough to ask. She hadn't ordered anything, her wallet was nearly empty, holding only a few coins and a torn bus ticket. She had ducked into the cafe not for coffee, but for shelter, warmth, and perhaps, just perhaps, a shred of humanity. For 20 minutes she sat unnoticed, ignored by most, though the servers exchanged glances. To them, she was a seat-taker, not a customer, someone lowering the tone of their bustling cafe. One of them, a tall man with sharp features and too much authority in his eyes, finally walked over, his voice curt and cutting through the background noise. "Miss, if you're not ordering, you can't stay here." Anna's head shot up, her lips parting, but no words came out. Her chest tightened as though the room itself was closing in on her. She tried to explain softly, barely above a whisper, I just needed a place to wait out the rain." But he wasn't listening. He only sighed impatiently and raised his voice so others could hear, "This is not a shelter, ma'am. Other customers are waiting for seats. Please leave." A couple nearby snickered, another looked away uncomfortably, and someone muttered, "She probably can't even afford a coffee." Laughter followed. Anna's cheeks burned with shame, tears threatening to spill. She wanted to vanish, to dissolve into nothing so no one could see her like this, reduced, discarded, humiliated for needing a roof for a few minutes. The man reached for her arm gently but firmly, guiding her up from the chair. "Please step outside." The words rang in her ears louder than the rain, louder than the mocking whispers. She stumbled to her feet, gripping her thin coat around her, her eyes blurred with tears. Her heart ached with a crushing heaviness as she was ushered toward the door. She had already known what it meant to be invisible, but this was worse. This was being seen and deemed unworthy. And then, just as the door opened to release her into the cold downpour, a voice broke through. Strong. Calm. Unshakable. "Wait." Heads turned. At the counter stood a man holding the hand of a little girl no older than 6. His hair was messy, dark stubble shadowing his jaw, his jacket worn but sturdy. He had the look of someone who carried the world on his shoulders but still stood tall. His daughter, clutching a small teddy bear with one missing ear, blinked curiously at the scene. The man's eyes, clear, steady, full of something that silenced the room, fixed on the server. "She's with us," he said firmly, nodding toward Anna. The cafe quieted. The man stepped forward, releasing his daughter's hand only to place it gently on Anna's trembling shoulder. "This is my guest. I'll be paying for her." His voice left no room for argument. The server faltered, words stumbling, "But, sir, she..." "No buts," the man interrupted, his tone even but resolute. "Get her a hot drink. Something warm. And make it quick." Whispers rippled through the cafe. Anna froze, her breath catching in disbelief. She had never seen him before. Why would he, this stranger, defend her? The server, red-faced and flustered, nodded stiffly and retreated to the counter. The man guided Anna back to the very seat she had been dragged from, pulling the chair out with a respect no one else had offered her all day. His daughter clambered onto the chair beside her, swinging her legs as if this was the most natural thing in the world. Anna sat down slowly, still trembling, her eyes darting to him. You don't even know me," she whispered, her voice breaking. He smiled softly, though it was tinged with weariness. "You don't have to know someone to treat them like a human being." His words settled over her like a blanket, warming a part of her that had long gone cold. The server returned awkwardly with a steaming cup of hot chocolate, sliding it onto the table without a word. Anna's hands wrapped around the mug, the warmth seeping into her skin, thawing the icy ache in her chest. She tried to hold back the tears, but one slipped free, tracing down her cheek. The man pretended not to notice, giving her dignity in her fragile moment. His daughter, however, leaned forward innocently and said, "Daddy always says people deserve kindness. Even when others don't see it." Anna looked at the child, her heart twisting. The girl smiled brightly, as if it was the simplest truth in the world. Anna's lips trembled as she whispered, "Thank you. I don't know what to say." The man leaned back in his chair, finally taking a sip of his coffee. "Then don't say anything. Just drink. You look like you need it more than anyone else in here." For the first time in weeks, months even, Anna let herself breathe. The storm outside raged on, but inside that cafe, she felt a sliver of safety, of being seen. The stranger's eyes still lingered, some judging, some ashamed of their silence, but it didn't matter anymore. One man's courage had rewritten her story. She wanted to ask who he was, what kind of man would step up like that when no one else would. But she didn't have to. She could see it in the way he held his daughter's hand, the way his eyes softened when she giggled, the way he carried his pain quietly but never let it turn into cruelty. He was a father. A protector. A man who knew what it meant to struggle but chose kindness anyway. Anna sipped the hot chocolate, letting the sweetness melt on her tongue, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, she had been dragged out of that cafe only to be pulled into something far greater, a moment that would remind her of hope when she needed it most. Anna never forgot that day. The single dad's kindness gave her strength to rise again. Years later, she returned to the cafe, this time with success and gratitude, and reserved the best seat for him and his daughter. Sometimes, one small act of compassion rewrites an entire life.